Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Crypto Talks podcast. Today, I'm talking to Christopher John Cardona. Welcome.
Thank you, Lenny.
It's one of the cases where someone hears an episode and gets in touch. So I really love that fact. It's really cool. Now we're gonna discover the person behind the crypto. So apparently. Apparently, the interesting fact here is that unlike some other guests, this person is not into crypto and blockchain full time. He's doing something else. So let's start from there. What is that occupies your daytime mostly?
Well, I mean, right now, I work for a fashion brand, a lingerie company. I mean,
Okay.
it's definitely different than probably a lot of the other guests that you might have on the show. And I'm the head of marketing of a lingerie company here in Los Angeles area, and that's what I do on a day-to-day basis. It's quite fun, and it's definitely different, right? I mean, a lot of people think like it's like Victoria's Secret glamorous stuff like that, but there's actually a lot of marketing work that goes into a brand and all that stuff. So that's what I love to do, outside of the crypto space.
Yeah, well, I'm in the marketing space itself, and definitely no matter which area the brand is, there is loads of work behind it. I was just speaking to someone the other day, and right now what I'm doing leaves the impression that no marketing is done just yet, because we are post ICO and pre-launch of the app itself. So and I really love that fact, because there is lots of things that are happening, but it's like the natural makeup effect. It's there, but people don't really see it's happening, but it's there and it works. So it's really cool. So yeah, I mean, it's gonna be two marketing people talking to each other. I hope we won't really drift too far away from crypto, though. So that is why let's talk about the crypto side of you. So let's try to understand, what do you do aside from the marketing, and how you are at all involved in crypto.
Sure. Well, I mean, I got into crypto, basically really, really into it late last year, right before the massive, parabolic runs that we had. And what got me into it was really technology. Ethereum, I owned a web development company for quite a few years, and I worked in startups. I was from the dot-com side of things, like going through startups, getting bought out for your cash flow, getting sold, getting laid off, and then moving to another one. I went through all that. So I've seen a lot of startups in that particular side of the space.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw Ethereum, the smart contracts and stuff like that, I was thinking like how I could develop something like this. So I started learning Solidity, how to develop smart contracts. I was trying to make a game and stuff like that. And then CryptoKitties came out, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then the Ethereum network totally stopped. I mean, because of the CryptoKitties and stuff like that. So I pulled back a little bit. Well, maybe it's not yet ready for a lot of these things that you can do online. So that's sort of what got me into crypto. And then I saw the parabolic runs, like everybody else. Like, oh my God, you're thinking, if I just bought 10,000 of this, I would be a millionaire now. Like, oh my God. And so I started studying the markets, reading a lot of books. I mean, I'm not a trader. I mean, I didn't really trade for life. I'm more from the marketing and tech side of things, from the internet side. And then I started learning the finances, looking at Ripple, how it went from, I think it was like $75, 75 cents at the time. It went all the way up to like $3, I think, in late December.
Yeah.
So then you got into it more and more and more. And so that's sort of how I veered into the trading side that I do now. I mean, I'm still, like I said, I was able to get into some ICOs, studying them, looking at the projects, the teams and stuff like that, based on the background that I had working in startups, and seeing how they market themselves. Of course, the marketing side is important, because if you may have a wonderful business plan, an idea, a startup idea, but if you can't really get the people to relate to it and understand, like Bab does an amazing job. I was watching your talk. I mean, you can really understand what it is that you guys are trying to do. But a lot of projects, they're more like technical side, right? They talk about, I know there was a big hype on Sella. That was a big project, and everything was technical. Like, this is going to be, you're going to do a million transactions per second is going to be the Ethereum of the future and all that stuff. But a lot of people, like my wife, wouldn't understand what that meant.
Yeah.
But if you talk about BAB, you're you're developing a platform for the unbanked. Like I come from a third world country. I was born in the Philippines, and I saw, I mean, my grandparents, like they lost all their papers, right? So, during World War II, their stuff got burnt. So if you ask them to apply for a passport, it's not easy because all that stuff got burnt. And so there's a lot of people that don't have access to banking.
Yeah.
So I think that is something that makes sense. And more projects need to be like that for this space to sort of, become more accessible to everybody. But all of those stories, all of those things sort of got me into cryptocurrency and, got me interested in, actually trading it and finding value where everybody doesn't find value. I think that's it's like the thrill of the hunt. Like today, I was chatting. I was up until, I don't know, up until like 4 a.m. yesterday or last night or this morning actually. I was chatting with somebody on YouTube. I mean, a Facebook channel that I'm also a group that I'm a part of. Because everything is falling apart, and they're asking me like, "How's your portfolio?" Like my portfolio is good because I invested in companies that I actually believe in, and I'm trading. I'm still trading, and yesterday I made some good gains in my trades. Just small percentage, but that's all you need. I mean, everybody
in this market, small gain is a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think when I look at a lot of the groups on Telegram, Discord, Facebook, they're all like, it's dire, right? It's like the end of the world.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, I mean, if you look at it, not everything is red. And if you look at like down to maybe the hour charts, you can see that there's greens that happen in those reds. So if you're able to really buy into those little pockets, then you're not going to be losing money. You just pull your money out when you actually can.
Let's step away from the panic mode for now.
Sure,
that people are into, and talk about the main trigger. How did you get into crypto? Was it something that you read? Was it these nice stories that attract people these days about how you can make money in an hour or whatever they market it with? Or what was that attracted you? I mean, obviously later on you made a lot of research and you learned a lot and then you started trading, but what was the very first thing? Like, where did you start? Did you buy a Bitcoin and why? Or how did it start in the beginning?
Well, the first thing that I bought actually was Ethereum because I got into, like I mentioned earlier, I got into trying to program Solidity. So I got Ethereum first so that I could be able to get in on the mainnet and actually execute, a contract. I went through Hacker Noon. I read an article. For some reason, somebody shared with me an article on Hacker Noon. I forgot what it was. I forgot exactly the article that was shared to me, but it was about the tokenization of the whole world, basically. Like everything will be tokenized, grains, commodities, and all that stuff. And so I read through that, and I figured, hey, there's something in here. So I read it a little bit more and I got into Solidity and tried to do that. So I bought Ethereum first, just from a utility standpoint, to be able to pay for the gas and the transaction and stuff like that. And that's all that I got into. I didn't really even look. I didn't even know there was like thousands of other coins out there. I was just like Ethereum. And of course, yeah, everybody knows about Bitcoin, but I saw there was a big difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum itself. So that's why, I gravitated more to Ethereum than Bitcoin because I wasn't really into the finances part of it. It was more just the tech side of things and how startups were using this. And I read, and then you read a lot, like Golem did their ICO, and you read about these scams that are going out, ICOs that are making like hundreds of millions of dollars and then just evaporating in thin air. So that's sort of, that's why I didn't get in on the financial side right away, because there was just a lot of instability there. But I understood the technology behind Ethereum, and that's really what got me interested in really looking in this space even more.
Okay, I see. So once you are in the space, because things are moving so fast, things are changing so much, you tend to be there all the time, like, checking the news, making sure that you are in the know, what's happening, how things are changing. How often do you check what's happening. I mean, I'm sure your day job and the lingerie business is a completely different one, as we mentioned. So how do you make sure those two don't get into each other's pace?
I think discipline, it really plays a big part of it. Although, I mean, I gotta say, I have team members in my marketing team that are also in cryptocurrency, like are interested in it. So
That's so
that
bad for
conversation,
lingerie.
I know, but like we look at data. I mean, you're in marketing. You're looking at your analytics. You're looking at like the SEO rankings, Alexa rankings, and all that stuff. So you're looking at data all day. I mean, maybe not all day, but a lot of times during the day because you have targets to hit. And so, I check I don't really check my blockfolio that much. It's usually I get into like, I have my crypto watch open on another screen. So occasionally when I'm in between things, I'll just check the price where it's going and stuff like that. But I usually don't trade when I'm at work. As you can imagine, like things are happening throughout the day. What I usually do, I wake up in the morning, I do my research, I put in my positions and I leave it. If I hit the prices that I want to buy a particular project or a coin, then it executes. If it doesn't, that's okay. I wait until I get home at night. I do sometimes look at things during like my lunch break or something like that. I'll look at what's going on and see if, my trades were executed or not. But that's pretty much the extent of it. But when I get home, I spend time with my family. I have 3 kids. I have another one on the way. So I make sure that I spend a lot of time with my family because, I mean, I think that's why we all want to be wealthy in life so that we can spend more time with the people that we love, right? And so that's when I, spend time with them. But then afterwards, that's when I, sit down in my little cave and start dissecting the price, reading the news and stuff like that, looking at what's been going on, preparing to record my video. I think my videos that I do, it's more like for me. I'm not really doing it to get an audience, but I'm really doing it as more like a diary for me so that I can refer to it. And usually I don't get to watch the videos that I record until the next morning.
Yeah.
So I'm driving,
we have to make a plug here, though. I have to interrupt you because it feels
Yeah,
like,
sure.
with people who are listening have no clue. We didn't mention
sure.
this in the beginning, that you also have a YouTube channel where you cover crypto-related subjects, and it's called Red Grind, right?
Yeah, Rat Grind. Rat Grind is the channel that I have on YouTube, and people can just go to ratgrind.com and automatically redirects to my YouTube channel. It's fairly new. I just started it, I don't know, maybe a little bit over a month ago, maybe.
But you already had loads of videos in there when I checked.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I try to record as much as I can every day. Like I said, I use it as a diary for myself because on my way to work in the morning, I drop my kids off at, like swim class and all in school when it's school week. I mean, I listen to the podcast the episode that I recorded the night before, so that I can see, okay, what happened yesterday, because there's so many news. I mean, you can imagine, like I look at Crypto Panic and every minute, like, oh my God, like 20 million things are happening at the same time and you get lost. So I pull out the best news that I could find that I think relevant to me. And I that the night before, and then I listened to that the morning after to see, okay, this was what it was last night. Then I looked at this morning, this is what it was. So the difference is sort of where I find those pockets of value that I either trade, invest in long term or stuff like that. So that's why, that's what I do.
Interesting. It feels like, you're doing lots of juggling. I mean, as you mentioned, you have lots of different aspects in your life that you're trying to balance out. I have no clue how you're doing it, to be honest, because it sounds
well, you
like
do the same.
Yeah, but it feels like you're doing it much more. I mean, my podcast is like every week or every 2 weeks. Your YouTube channel is daily. I mean, I would never be able to pull that off for sure. So it feels like, there's lots of coordination, self-discipline, control, and organization, time management, everything else, which is towards the physical side of things. How do you deal with the emotional roller coaster? Because as we mentioned, now many people are in panic mode because things are, in red and prices are dropping. Eventually it will go up and then everyone will be very happy, and it's a big emotional jumps and drops as well. So how do you deal with the emotional sides of things?
Well, I think that's the what makes being busy nice is because I don't really have time to truly sit back and kind of have self-pity, like, oh my God, the investment that I took us 50% drop this morning. I don't really have time to dwell in that. Like, if I mean, I usually have stop losses in place. Even my long-term investments, as the price goes up, I put my stop loss. So even though that it goes up more, then I'll make more money. But as soon as it drops, it sells out. I go back into my previous position. So at least I'm out of the market when it goes down. So I don't, I've had instances where I've lost like 50%, 60%, of course, when I was more noob in this space. I mean, I'm no expert by all means, but at least I've gotten a little bit more strategic about it. But I think with all the things that I'm doing, it's really finding like something that you love to do, and it's something that it just comes natural. Like I mentioned when we were chatting, I don't know, like last week or something, I told you that last summer I did a 60 episode podcast. Basically, I read a book every single day. And that was the reason I did that. Although I love reading, I think that helps me emotionally. Your personal development really helps you, because you tend to focus on finding the opportunities in some of those fumbles that we all have in life. But the only reason that I did that was to prove to my son, my eldest son, I keep pushing him to read. So I told them, look, I'm going to read a book a day. I'm going to prove to you, I'm going to podcast about it. I'm going to summarize it, and I'm going to publish the episode. And you can't tell me that you can't finish the book that you're reading, because I will do that. And I work full time. I provide for my family and all that stuff. And I'm going to show you that this can be done. So then that's how I got into that. And this crypto episodes that I do on a day-to-day basis, I mean, I don't do them every day. When I can, I do them every day. But I didn't record on Friday because I didn't really know where the markets were headed. I don't want to say like, oh, this is where it's going to go, and then it totally goes the opposite. But I think, being able to really study and, have more personal development in my life really helps me, kind of on those roller coaster rides.
I see. Yeah, I mean, personal development is something I really love as well. I'm sure most of my listeners don't know it because it was ages ago, but I started by having a self-development blog. So I was a self-development blogger at some stage of my life as well. So
that's awesome.
So yeah, that's been part of it as well. So I mean, amazing. Basically, lots of things going on. YouTubers who cover crypto. Obviously, there are loads of them. They're really knowledgeable people. There are some with big audiences. There are some very knowledgeable ones with smaller audiences. There are some who claim to be experts but are not. And in any case, no matter what the size of the audience, people actually who follow those people listen to their advice. Although we all have this disclaimer saying that it's not a financial advice, we're not responsible for it. But we all know at the same time that people do listen because that's what some come there for. So how do you deal with that responsibility? How do you make sure that, because obviously, you can't really be sure about what's going to happen, as you mentioned. What is going on from that side of the things, the responsibility and knowing that people who watch your videos are going to follow your advice eventually?
Yeah, I think, that's a great question. I think, I talk to a lot of the people that watch my videos offline, part of some of the groups that I'm in. And what I always tell them is, like you mentioned, do your own research, the standard spiel that everybody gives. But I think that my videos give you a perspective, right? And that's what I'm sharing with you. I'm not telling you that the prices are going to go up today, you should buy in. The prices are going to go down to it, you can short it. If you do short positions, you can do that. That's not what I say on my particular content and what I say on my channel. What I do is I look at all the news that's out there, and I look at the trends of what the technical indicators are showing me, and I give my readers and myself the best probabilities of where it could potentially go. A lot of times, when you do that, there is still people that say, oh, should I buy now or should I sell my position? And I always answer them, I don't know. I mean, realistically, like you mentioned, there's no way for us to be sure. I mean, when we look at the markets, I didn't expect it to go down like, below 6,000 this morning. And it did happen. When I was looking at those charts, everything is oversold. Like if you look at the 1-day chart on Bitcoin, Ethereum, all of them, they've been oversold for, I don't know, for a good couple weeks now. So like, how low more can it go? And it did go lower. So there's really no way for you to predict all of that. But I think the responsibility is to make sure to remind them to like, this isn't like an exact science. There is some traders out there that are expert at this. I'm not one of them. I'm learning as you guys are. So I'm just sharing you the perspective that I have. If I'm reading that there's $20 trillion that are potentially coming into the space, what can that mean? There's OTC that's happening. When they trade over the counter, then that money's not going to the markets. If they do that, then you don't see the positive gains. If, for example, they buy in $20 trillion worth of Bitcoin, and they do that outside of the traditional markets, outside of the exchanges, you're never going to see it, right? As soon as that price goes up, they sell it. That's definitely something that you're going to see. So there's a lot of factors outside of our space that really affects the price. So people need to understand. But the other thing that I'm introducing to my channel that originally when I thought of the Grat Grind, it wasn't about crypto. This was me documenting what I did. I have videos where I do Robinhood trading, like ETFs and stuff like that. I play Cash Flow 101. I review books. I read all of those things. The whole goal of the channel is not to teach you how to trade crypto, how to make money from crypto, but it is for you to explore different opportunities where you could be successful, whatever the case may be. If for example, I discover that like there's a new, like drop shipping, for example, I make a lot of money in drop shipping, I'm going to share that with you. I still do my crypto trades and stuff like that, but I'm going to share with you other opportunities for you to be able to be financially independent. That's the whole goal of my channel, not necessarily to be rich in crypto, but to be able to share with you my journey in the rat race, trying to get out of it as best as possible.
Yeah, which is, very big potential audience, because we all know that everyone dreams to escape 9 to 5 and, gain freedom. So going back to the fact that you're a marketer and you're also into crypto, very often when I'm looking at what crypto people, or as you mentioned, like techie people do, is they use their own language, and they sort of, whatever they produce in terms of content online is very similar to their style. Therefore, as you mentioned, the mass audience is going to grasp it very, very hard. It's going to be very hard to comprehend them. So I think people in marketing who also are in tech and understand their stuff, and I'm not one of them, I'm more into marketing and less understanding tech, you seem to be both, are going to be the ones who are going to bring in the bridge between the two and translate the tech into human language. So as a content producer, do you think that your content style is different from most of the people who are deep into crypto and blockchain?
I wouldn't say that my content is completely different. I mean, I've seen some channels that I do follow that are really relevant, and I see how they are able to communicate and simplify some of the thoughts about cryptocurrency. I think that's one of the biggest things. I do see some of the people in the space come from traditional trading background. Like if you watch Tony Vays, for example, if you watch Tony Vays, you like when he does his Elliott waves and all this stuff is like something like I don't understand. And I'm sure the people that watch him do understand that because they gravitate towards him because he comes from JP Morgan. So that's the speak that he has, right? And you look at like maybe Jimmy Sung, for example, he comes from he's a Bitcoin maximalist. He comes from, he knows the technology. He's a developer for Bitcoin and all that stuff. So he comes from it from a technical standpoint. And you mentioned something really important. We as marketers, we have to be able to communicate some thoughts that may be complicated for other people, right? I mean, my belief is marketing is basically taking people through your value journey, through your value path, and taking them there, taking their hand and taking them little by little to get them to where you want them to go, right? The idea, whatever the case may be. Yep. And I think my channel, that's what I'm trying to that's definitely what I'm trying to do is, I introduce concepts about money, how the banks are, everybody's talking about like, oh, the banks are evil, they're going to take your money and all that stuff. That's all great. But what is behind that?
Yeah.
There's fractional reserve lending that comes into that space. What does that mean? So sometimes I'll bring in a video that I saw online that explained to me what it meant. And I'm going to share that with the audience, because for me, what originally, when I was making these crypto videos, I was teaching my wife and my family. Why? Because I read a news where some guy died and all his crypto money is just lost forever. So I said, you know what? I'm going to make videos. I'm going to write like little pieces of tutorials for me to be able to share to my family what the hell it is I'm doing, so that if I ever, God forbid, something happens, at least they have an idea of how to access the stuff and it's not lost forever in like the ether, right? So that's really the main thing that I want to be able to get across. So simplifying the ideas in the crypto space is really what we need to try to do. I mean, when I watch some of the videos, some of them talk about like really technical stuff. I mean, I follow them because I learned from them. But if I followed them and I learned from them when I began, I would be totally turned off, because there's no way I can understand all the things that they're saying, like Fibonacci retracements and all this stuff. Like, that's all way above my head. We have a lot of technical stuff in marketing, but we don't talk about those things. We look at like, what's our ranking today? How many keywords do I have on the first page? I mean, that we understand, but it's practical. So that's what I want to try to deliver, is practical information for everybody to understand this space.
Yeah. So when we were speaking, you mentioned several times about different online communities, crypto communities that we are part of. And when I was getting into this space, I too joined different crypto communities. And for me, the interesting, curious part of the whole thing was, okay, this is a completely different type of community around a completely different topic, how different they are from the other communities of marketeers, of writers, of any other people I used to be part of, and I think understanding that was quite crucial in order to understand how to speak to them. So what have you found out about what crypto communities are specific with? What is the difference between any other communities and the crypto people who gather together online or on meetups or wherever they are?
I think I join a lot of conferences, marketing conferences. You attend them every year. You fly out to different places and meet other marketers. I think with marketers, everybody has a common understanding of what marketing is. But then you come into different, somebody that's coming from the SEO standpoint, some coming from the agency standpoint, content marketing, all advertising standpoint. They're all coming from different space, but you all understand each other. But I think in the crypto space, what I've found is there's a lot of different pockets of completely different types of people, right? So you have, I'm part of some communities where they're completely just trading. Like they don't believe in hodling. They don't believe in long term, because they say like it's stupid if you don't take out your profits.
Are those the ones with When Moon and When Lambo kind of tribe, or it's a different one?
It's a different one.
Okay.
The traders are more the trading community that I I'm part of on Facebook, Telegram, and Discord and stuff like that. They're more like realist. That's what I found. Like they look at the technicals of the market, and they take their money out, and they wait for confirmations of things to happen, and they buy back in, right? I think the more overly optimistic community, like the hodl community, which I also believe in that to a certain degree, they're all about the like, oh, I've invested it, this is the time to buy because it's dipping, just keep buying more. But I mean, we don't have an unlimited cache of boxes of treasures behind us that we can just keep pulling money into the space. That's unrealistic, and there's a lot of communities out there what they're all about. And then when somebody complains, they get mad at them, like, oh, you should just get out of this space. If you don't believe in it, get out of this space. I mean, if you bought in at 17,000 and right now it's at, I don't know, it went down to 5,000, you have to understand how they're feeling. You know, they are a believer, but 6 months for you to have lost pretty much more than half of your money is quite an experience to have.
Yeah.
We're not really prepared for that type of stuff. Your job, imagine if you're working and your boss tells you today, starting from today, you're going to be paid half of your salary. So what would you do? That would be an experience that you're not prepared for. But sometimes that's what I see in a lot of these different communities. You know, I think we need more communities that are more logical and do come together. There are certain projects that you do want to hodl. There's some projects that you want to hold because they have utility, like Bax, for example. It has a lot of utility value to it. So the more you have it, the more you could be able to use it within the platform itself. But then there are those speculative coins where you're just waiting for the price to go up and you know you're going to sell. Like if you bought in, you know, in the crash of, I think like around September, October of last year, and you didn't sell when it reached 20,000, then that sucks, because you should have, because all indicators told you that it was going to crash.
Yes,
if you were wishing for it to go up to,
but emotions told
correct,
that it could go to 30K. So.
Absolutely. And I mean, there was a ton. I mean, everyone was an expert. I mean, that's the thing that I found, you know, because I got in after the last crash in September or so, and before the parabolic runs, I got in right in between that time. So I was able to see like, oh, what would happen. I saw it parabolically rise, and I saw it like crash 50, 60, 80%, right? I mean, this year alone. And when you see all of those things happening, you sort of take a step back and see like, okay, well, what coins do actually survive these things? What type of coins are they? The privacy coins that people you know, really invest in? Are they the utility coins? Are they the coins that are form coins? You have to really understand. That's why studying about the space even more is what we need as a community in general. But a lot of the communities that I'm a part of, a lot of them don't really want to study. You know, they all just want to post like, oh, the price of this particular cryptocurrency is going up. What's happening? If you Google what's happening, you just type that coin, you'll know what's happening. But why are you posting that on this particular group, asking us what's happening? You could just Google that yourself. So I think people are a little bit
lazy.
Yeah, lazy.
Yes. I agree with you.
Checking for themselves.
I think it's yeah, and it's not only about crypto. It's also about people who are getting into online marketing, who are getting into self-publishing, who are getting into wherever they are. The first instinct and the first sort of, you know, desired result is looking for a shortcut. And I think it's because these days we ended up with loads of fake impressions of overnight success. So they do want to be part of another overnight success happening to them. So and the same thing in crypto. I've been asked many times, is there any shortcut? Is there any way? Like, can I ask someone and get the answer? I don't want to read this book. I don't want to read this news. You know, is there any way, any resource where I go to and look at things straight away without getting deep into it? And I mean, my answer is obviously no. What's your standpoint? Like, if someone really wants to get into it, is there any light version of just, you know, getting some knowledge?
I think I do. I'll have a lot of people that ask me like, "Oh, you're creating cryptocurrency. Like, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole." And then you have these other people that say like, "Oh my God, you know, I hear all these stories about these kids that are becoming like millionaires overnight. So how do I make money?" And what I usually tell them is buy yourself a cryptocurrency first. You don't have to put in, like, if Bitcoin is 6,000, you don't have to buy a Bitcoin. You can buy like $20 worth of Bitcoin. Yeah. Correct. I mean, go get a few sats of Bitcoin, get on Coinbase and buy it. Just have a taste first. Before you study, before you do anything else, get yourself a cryptocurrency first. Even just spend $20, $50. If you can't put in $50 at least, $20 to $50 to buy into something, then you have no business studying it even. Because you're going to be convincing yourself all the time that, why did I spend this money? that's gonna be the mindset that you have. And I know a lot of people that are like that got into cryptocurrencies and are kicking themselves, wishing like I shouldn't have gotten in because I lost everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if they put in $50 and then experience it for yourself, how does that work? Is it simple enough for you? Because it's not easy to set up a wallet, to keep it secure. You have this is like the internet back in early 1990s.
Yeah.
When there was no you had these long emails like university dot edu long emails.
Yeah.
This is where we are at now. And if you can't send emails back then there's no way for you to be able to do it. You have to wait until maybe it's more noob friendly, then get in then. But by that time, things would have been more mature. I mean, if you're one of the wishers that say they read the pizza story, right? Oh, if he didn't sell his Bitcoin, the 10,000 Bitcoins to buy 2 pizzas, then he would be even richer today. But think about it. How did you know? At that time, if I read that story, I would think Bitcoin is definitely has no value, because if I have to spend 10,000 of it to buy 2 pizzas, then it's not worth it.
Yeah.
But of course, in hindsight is always 2020. We think back today, if I had 10,000 Bitcoin, then we would have an island or something.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the people that ask me, I tell them, go buy yourself a Bitcoin. Get on Coinbase and buy yourself a cryptocurrency. And I tell them, I joke around, if you use my link on my video, you get $10 from Coinbase because they give you a free referral thing. So you go ahead and do that. And afterwards, once you have $20, transfer it to Binance, wherever you can create an account. When I got started in crypto, everything was closed. All the exchanges were, except for Binance, were pretty much closed. You can't get in on it because there was just a massive influx of people trying to get in on the space.
Yeah, that's
so it was hard.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's what I would say to anybody that's trying to get in on the space. Go buy yourself one first.
Yeah, not a lot, but
not a lot.
Put something in to just get the taste. That's true. I mean, that's how I started. I ended up with a bit, and then you need to learn what to do with it and where to send it and how it works, and you do some mistakes and you lose something in between. I mean, it's a long story, but yeah, that's how we all start basically. So if we have to wrap this up, I mean, I'm sure everyone has his own theory about what's coming next and what's going to happen in the future, and where this technology, being blockchain and the cryptocurrency in general, is going to end up with. So what's your theory?
I think, the space is relatively very, very immature at this point. From everything that I can see, it's the accessibility to cryptocurrencies is not easy. Here in America, Coinbase is really easy to buy into, but not everybody's accepting it. I think that, we will eventually get to those prices that everybody's wishing for, but I think it's going to take a lot longer. I'm more, I wouldn't say overly optimistic on things because of the fact that I've been able to see all of these parabolic runs and drops to nothing. So I think this whole space eventually, from a technology side, blockchain may not be the end all be all technology. We see DAGs, we see Hashgraph coming out with their Ghost protocol. There's a lot of different consensus protocols that are still going to be coming up in the space. Just like we all thought that Yahoo was the best company in the world when it went public, that it would never collapse, and we saw them basically whittle to, I mean, I wouldn't say nothing, but they've been bouncing off and to different tangents, right, from the last couple years, and we all thought that was never going to happen. So I think we're not yet at a point where we really know which companies, which projects are going to be here in the long term. So I think really studying where things are going to be going, really keeping a pulse on the different projects that you really invest in is very important. But I think that we need more utility out of the cryptocurrencies, like what you guys are doing in BAB, for example. Getting this out there in the rest of the world is really what's amazing.
Just a disclaimer, I didn't pay you to advertise our project.
Absolutely, definitely. I mean, definitely you didn't. But it's very interesting because I was talking to a guy in Kenya. He's a big proponent of blockchain acceleration over there, with the M-Pesa, BitPesa, and all that stuff. I think we need more of those countries to really get into cryptocurrencies so that the rest of the first world countries, the Americas, the Englands, the everywhere else that have the money can see that this is actually changing people's life on a day-to-day basis. We need more of those stories to be put out there.
Agreed.
Not just this financial speculation part of it, but the actual utility of our space.
Yeah.
And that will lead to its, growth exponentially.
Absolutely. And then there will be probably a less price talks and more real stories of transformation. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Makes sense. Okay, well, thank you so much for the time. It was a really nice talk, and I hope you will manage to continue successfully juggling everything you're doing. And keep up the good work.
Thank you, Annie. It was a great talk to you. Thank you so much for inviting me to your show, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Absolutely. Take care.